Mariners regular season is over, and it's time to look back on the preseason predictions we made in March. Welcome to the Dom Skeen channel, your one-stop shop for the Mariners storylines on Seattle's minds. And today the Mariners kick off their first postseason scrimmage in just under an hour. I'm going to get myself down there. But before that, I wanted to get you guys our little end-of-season review, looking back at our preseason predictions. And we're going to do a little more of this as well, but just want to, all I've got in front of me right now are the Mariners statistics for this year and the predictions that I made on opening day before we played game one, which I basically kicked our coverage off this year on the channel with. I had a few kind of main predictions. The first one was the mounting pressure from the fan base and how conservative the Mariners handled everything in free agency this past year. Leaving the depth of the regional sports network route, something that we covered, leaving subscription services like Fubo and YouTube TV, that was going to happen. Didn't end up happening this year, but they decided, Root Sports is going to be dead and gone next year anyway. So why make a deal this year? We'll just let them stay for this year, then we'll move to our own thing next year. And this is why, the first base problem this offseason was addressed with Miles Mastrobuoni, really all the offseason hitters that we brought in. Miles Mastrobuoni acquired an eye-for-eye trade with the Cubs. Donovan Solano, 37-year-old DH only, who would cost $3.5 million, ended up being a first baseman for us. We got that $3.5 million worth because he was an extremely hot hitter back in the end of May all the way through June. Had that cold stretch to begin the year, played some okay first base at times for us. We didn't need him in September once we had Naylor. But Donovan Solano could say it was worth it, even if it was a penny pinching move that we'd like to see our organization kind of be able to not need those moves in the future and just be able to make better moves, have the ability to. Rowdy Tellez, non-roster invitee, brought in to give Luke Rayleigh paternity leave, swung the bat too well in spring not to keep. Obviously stayed around on the Mariners for a ton of months. Awesome revenge game against the Blue Jays, some amazing grand slams, bat flips, home runs, big moments. Definitely developed a little bit of fan favoriteness and was a clubhouse guy for sure, a grinder, a guy who, really took advantage of his opportunities. But again, ends up on, I think, a division rival along with Solano by the end of the regular season this year, as well as Dylan Moore. The other 23 Mariners were returners. Anyway, I liked Mastrobuoni and Solano as members of this ball club. Disheartened by the cynical philosophy of this organization before a pitch has been thrown. Moving on to the positives, outfield trio of Randy, Rodriguez, Robles, as good as TV gets in all three phases of the game. We finally get it back healthy in the playoffs, and we're firing. So as long as one of their bats stays hot, the lineup should be able to absorb some of the natural batting average drain going for homers and steals will cost us. We definitely were, and we didn't know that we would be one of the better home run hitting teams, not just in all of MLB, but ever. I think we finished with the third most homers in the MLB. My key for these three would be stay healthy, keep a sobering approach to their stats, which Julio, again, did exactly what he does every year. Had a cold first half by a lot of people's standards, and then just is an MVP caliber player in the second half, on a Hall of Fame trajectory to begin his career. Don't call any of these guys the MVP after 1 week. Don't doubt that any of them can rack up offensive stats like an all-world guy when they're hot. And all of them, once you get into the playoffs, right, and it's just a couple games, you want that type of talent on, in your lineup on the field for you. The rotation was awesome. And, everything pretty much worked. But I said the old Mike Cameron quote, which I'm going to say every single video. There are two things that matter in the playoffs, pitching and health of pitching. It's an arms race. So we're going to win this arms race going into the playoffs. I'm pretty happy with where the pitching staff is at. I'm going to do more breakdown of that in the next coming weeks and, over the games. Catchers as bright as can be for the Mariners for the first time since, ironically, Dan Wilson. Cal Raleigh finally received an extension yesterday. This was back on opening day after the collective clamoring of the fan base, both about increasing payroll and building around the heart of the team. What people might not realize is that Cal is currently projected by Fangraphs to be the 13th best position player in all of MLB this season. I am going to give myself a pat on the back. I knew Cal Raleigh was going to be a top 15 player in the MLB just based on the holistic collection of value that he brings, from catching, was a platinum glove guy last year, hit 40 bombs last year anyway. I mean, come on. And then I said, not only is he a fan favorite for his humanity, but he's become one of the best players in the game too. Absolutely proved it. Cal for AL MVP. His extension deserves praise, but was absolutely necessary to the organization both on and off the field. Now, I want you guys to imagine, I don't like playing the what-ifs game, don't like taking away, credit where it's due, but I want to say just imagine that Cal Raleigh did not fire Scott Boras in March and did not sign an extension with the Seattle Mariners the day before opening day, before he was about to double, triple, quadruple his market value. Let's just let that sit with us for a second. Thank God. I'm just going to give all glory to God for the Mariners being able to hold on to Cal Raleigh and build around him for the future. Even the bullpen isn't so bad. It's actually one of the best in baseball due to our use of matchups, all the pitching depth in our pipeline for a packed rotation. This was true and goes into the playoffs. We've got Emerson Hancock in a pitch out of the pen in the playoffs, as well as Bryce Miller. There aren't any new relievers who made the roster, though, so we can expect the usual suspects. Bizzardo did make the roster and has gone from pretty much a relatively unknown guy in the organization to a really, really big key guy for us this year, and really is in that inner circle of trust. The infield is where we have a problem. Who's on first is a reasonable question tons of Mariners fans will need to ask today, and the answer isn't too confident. Tellez now has all the pressure to perform like a starter, and the fan base doesn't care what you were expected to do. This was true. First base was just a massive hole at the beginning of the season, and boy, did we address it, kind of just covered that. Second base, the second base has always needed long-form investment since Cano left in 2018. Instead, we've tried a myriad of platoon and budget options that we've all left much to desire. I dream of a small ball second baseman who can complement our lineup well and take advantage of T-Mobile Park's factors, hitting for average, shrinking the strike zone, and giving all the big boppers in the lineup room to breathe. Now, it's funny because we ended up with a second baseman that worked out, and we also ended up getting these type of offensive approaches, but in a very, very unconventional way. Unfortunately, Adam Frazier, Colton Wong, and Jorge Polanco had all failed to meet expectations when recently thrust into this role, but Ryan Bliss is younger than all of them and therefore inspires more optimism. Here's to unknown upside at second base again. Now, Bliss early in the year gets hurt. Polanco with the glove was not good, very rusty with the glove early on. And my big prediction of the year was that, if Jorge Polanco can get back to this smooth contact swing, that it's going to work out for him and he's going to become the Jorge Polanco of old in a way. And he did that at the beginning of the year. He absolutely started the year off on fire, ends up with 20 homers and a decent batting average. But I'm going to give all the credit on this one to Edgar Martinez for getting him back to a swing that works with his limited athleticism in his 30s. And also so much credit recently, which I haven't said this enough on here, to Perry Hill, because Jorge Polanco's defense right now is so night and day from where it was at the beginning of the season and where it's been since he's joined Seattle. It's so effort-based now. It really feels like Dan and Perry, one of them, or maybe both of them, had to talk with him and said, hey, we want your bat in the lineup every single day, but we just need you to go all out at second base. We need you to just go, throw everything you got at playing second base at a high level. And the diving stops he's making, the range that he's showing at second base right now is absolutely unexpected, kind of unprecedented for a guy in his 30s to take this big of a leap forward late in the season at second base. Especially, just on defense. I'll always be a defender of JP at short, but he does need to produce offensively, stay consistent on defense. He would be the first to admit he had a mediocre last season. That was staying out on the stat sheet. He needs to pass the eye test every night. Playing it 100% will be the coolest dude out there. And his future in Seattle, for next year and beyond is unsure. But the one thing that's true is on the eye test and being the coolest dude out there, JP Crawford has delivered. And in the big moments, he's been an absolute, he has been an absolute revelation in those big moments for the Mariners recently. All in all, more questions than any other team in baseball. They have a unique opportunity to win now with the burgeoning pitching staff, top players, and go toe-to-toe with anyone's. However, the team's tumultuous history that's plagued the fan base with doubt and fears accentuated by questionable ownership, and the negative, shady images that emerges with every loss comes down to like the rain in the Cascade Mountains. This has gotten a little better as of recently. I want to give a little bit of credit to the fans. Players, fans, coaches, and management want the team to win games, but they're desperate for ownership to put their money where their mouth is, to give the whole operation some backing. I predict the Mariners will go 90-72, and they ended up going 90-72. So I got the record correct. Not that I didn't predict, I didn't, know that was going to happen, but I definitely had that feeling that was around the record that we could get, and I ended up hitting it right on the nail. In the top-heavy AL with balanced schedules, our pitching should eke us out a few extra wins, despite our offense having historically bad weeks. And we've still got an extremely streaky offense that has historically bad weeks. We also have the historically good weeks right now. And as long as you're in the playoffs, right, you just either are going to get a hot lineup or not in the playoffs. And, I mean, the lineup in the playoffs, feels that pressure. They can really get in that game, get back into that game, because it's right. This is the only game that matters. I predict Cal Raleigh will be the Mariners MVP. I always pick Julio and Cal. Just might be a top 15 position player and the best at the hardest position. The positional advantage at catcher could give him the edge. I was absolutely right about this. The only thing I was wrong about, I should have said he's going to win American League MVP. Thought he would win Mariners MVP. I thought he had a chance. I talked about this in the beginning. He's going to be one of the top players in the AL. He should be top 5, 10 in MVP voting just based on who he is. His skill level in baseball for Cal Raleigh is so high. I predict Logan Gilbert will win the Mariners Cy Young. Mariners need to get his extension done next, because when he's determined, he's going to raise that price even more. Now, Logan and Kirby dealt with some injuries, as well as Bryce. Luis didn't really have his changeup a lot of the year. That was, he's a little older and he's not quite as elite. So Brian Wu ends up becoming a true frontline starter in the MLB, a true top 10 pitcher in the MLB, and he won the Mariners Cy Young this season. No question about that. I predict Matt Brash will win Comeback Player of the Year. Can't wait to see those sliders again, and I don't think we know how much we've missed them. I think that's a fair thing to say as well. I think Jorge Polanco deserves credit for Comeback Player of the Year as well. But Matt Brash absolutely been dominant coming off of Tommy John surgery and missing all of 2024. And finally, I predict we'll lose in the ALCS to the Yankees. Why did I say that? History says they'll buy at the deadline and will sell. Well, based on this, I think you can tell which way I'm going to point in my postseason predictions video, because we were the ones that bought bigger than the Yankees at the deadline. Although, if we go into the ALCS versus the Yankees, I would have predicted that right too. The East Coast gets going, this was right before opening day it all started. And my biggest question for you guys in 2025 was, who's going to lead the Mariners in batting average? I want to go back and look right now, who led the Mariners in batting average this year. And so Dominic Canzone, not a qualified hitter with just 269 plate appearances, 243 at-bats, but he did hit 300 even. He hit 300 even on the year, so shout out to Dom Canzone. Definitely didn't expect that from him. And would he have done that in a full season's worth of work? Not sure. But the best batting average king for the Mariners ends up being Josh Naylor, who, I didn't think he was going to be on this team until the talks kind of started in June and July about the deadline. I was mentioning it for sure. And where I talked about Jorge and us needing a second baseman that fit the contact approach of this ballpark better than anybody since Ichiro, who also is, by the way, going to be playing in the postseason scrimmage today. Josh Naylor was the best hitter to come in here and use the cavernous depths of this ballpark to collect hits all over the place. He ends up with a 299 batting average. Only 210 plate appearances for us, technically, but 54 games for us. 299 batting average with us. But in the MLB, obviously, his year, just elite. 295 batting average over 543 plate appearances. Josh Naylor was the answer to our batting average conundrum and our Mariners offensive conundrum. That was the title of my Game 3 video, I think, if you look back at it. This guy plugged that hole better than anybody. I was also a little worried about Gino Suarez midseason coming in as one of the most inconsistent, streaky power bats of the generation, who, when he's on, can hit home runs with I mean, if he had hit one more and hit 50 home runs, right? He's done 49 twice now. It's him and all Hall of Famers basically in that list. Like Chris Davis is also there. I think like Luis Gonzalez or something. But yeah, it's pretty crazy, that Eugenio can get that many home runs in a year. But remember what happened the next year after that too. And I mean, I love Gino, the human element of baseball. I was watching game 162 on Sunday and just watching how much it meant to Gino throwing stuff up to the fans. Like the human element is where I got that trade wrong, because the human element of what Gino brings and the good vibes and the optimism that you need, especially say you get down in a playoff game or playoff series, I think that completely plays, and that's more valuable than even I was able to, I was the number one Ben Williamson supporter, and I still am, for who he is as a ball player, what he brings in his presence in the Mariners lineup. But Gino Suarez, well, it's a commitment to a more streaky style, just selling out for power in a ballpark that doesn't allow you to do so as often. It absolutely raises the ceiling of this team and gives us a better chance to win a World Series. Can't wait to see Ben Williamson next year, but Suarez, really excited for this season. I hope he earns himself a big contract. And just being 100% realistic, I don't expect him back in Seattle next year. Expect him to get I expect he to be a better signing, fit with somebody else's payroll much better. We have Ben Williamson under club control for several years, should be playing him. And Gino Suarez, since he's come back to Seattle, has been pretty streaky on the home run hitting and kind of had his hot streak and has cooled off since. So it would make a lot of sense for to go with Ben Williamson next year. But Suarez, you cannot discount the human element that he brings to this locker room. And going into the scrimmage today, I know I was kind of, my main thing about the Dodgers series was just valuable reps and, getting ready, playing games where the pressure's not all on and you actually get to play the game and really be kind of, dissect it, be analytical, observational, things like that. We have scrimmages now where that's exactly what we're going to do. So I'm going to get down there. I'm going to go make all the observations I can, and I'm going to come report back to you guys tonight. I will see you before scrimmage 2. Thank you for watching the Dom Skiing channel all season. Thank you. We're over 100 subscribers now. Hit that subscribe button and hit that bell for alerts, as you're going to be getting videos all throughout the postseason here, plus the off season. And thank you guys for staying with the Dom Skiing channel, your one-stop shop for the Mariners storylines on Seattle's minds. We'll see you guys to discuss the scrimmage later. With that being said, go M's.